Okay, so welcome back to today's video. I wanted to talk about things that I found in my search for love, because when you're searching to have this experience or even just the expression of love and feeling loved, there's a lot of things that you might not realize that you're missing, and most of it needs to be redirected towards yourself. Is being able to give yourself the assurances and the feelings that you want, just so you know you can be secure no matter what's happening, no matter what people do. So the first thing I would say is self-respect, because you have to be able to see yourself in a certain way and treat yourself respectfully in order for other people to treat you well. And what I mean with that is just a lot of us are so critical, judgmental, and hard on ourselves. We feel like if we make a mistake or do certain things in our lives that defines us, and we won't allow ourselves the freedom to have the things that we want because we're constantly judging ourselves based on things that we've already done. And then we project that into the future and don't allow ourselves to be any different because we're still holding on to the person that took those actions, instead of seeing yourself as a whole, instead of being defined by one or two experiences. So respecting yourself can show up in so many different ways: being more positive, complimenting yourself, having just the confidence to believe in yourself and treat yourself how you want to be treated, or how you would treat somebody else that you cared about or loved. Because then you'll see you start to care more about how you feel, and that means you won't accept things, and it won't be something you have to struggle to set boundaries. It'll just be a natural confidence where those are your expectations, and you don't have to sit there and convince yourself of it. So the next thing is value. Again, this is similar to self-respect. When you see yourself as valuable, you won't feel insecure. You won't feel not good enough. You won't feel like you can't get the things that you want. You won't need someone to prove that you're deserving in order for you to feel valued. You just know your inherent value because you exist. So that's one thing I learned as well, thinking that I wasn't valuable because I didn't have the people around me, or because I wasn't living the life that I know I wanted, that I knew I could have, yet somehow was still stuck in old habits, just judging myself for those decisions I had made, instead of giving myself the grace and not focusing on that so much. So it's learning what it feels like to know your value, know your worth naturally without anything defining that. The next thing is self-acceptance. So this kind of encompasses everything as well, because when you accept yourself, you know who you are. You don't just see yourself as the person who makes those mistakes and can't get anything right. You might need to understand why you made those decisions in those circumstances, yet it's not something that you judge yourself for or constantly put yourself down and sabotage. Like, you learn from what you need to learn, and then you can keep it pushing. And as long as you actually apply it and plan ahead on how to react differently going forward, it served the purpose. But you kind of have to make a decision that things are working out for you and they're here to help you, and it'll have that impact in your life. Understanding. So I definitely took a lot of time to understand myself and what motivated me, and then how to shift that and motivate myself in a positive way, instead of reinforcing negative things or putting myself down as a form of love that I didn't realize I was giving myself. Like, you can protect yourself and be kind to yourself. You don't have to use negativity to force you or to protect yourself and keep yourself safe. Even though there's so much going on in the world today, it can feel hard to see that as a possibility or accept that as truth. But it's just a choice and a decision to look at life in a certain way, because you know going back to the old ways of doing things didn't get you anywhere. So at worst, you'll be feeling better more of the time. And I feel like that's still a win. If you could have your peace, even if nothing changes, that's the kind of stability that most people are fighting for every day. So in my search for love, the biggest thing that I gained was courage, because it took a lot of courage to be able to look at my self-image and really see what I thought about myself, because I realized that I was the only one who was in control of that. And as painful as I felt and insecure, it made me understand that the same way I felt so badly about myself, I could be just as courageous or just as consistent in loving myself and have a way more positive outlook on life and just an overall more pleasant experience. At a minimum, just having the peace of mind in my head and just feeling good, because a lot of people can be afraid of pain and they'll avoid it. They'll either shut down or they'll just really panic and have anxiety and be overwhelmed, but that still doesn't resolve it. So it really takes an emotionally mature person to be able to be the observer and say, okay, what can I do about this? What do I think this really means about myself? And then how can I change that image and the assumptions about who I think I am so that it benefits me instead of hurting me? The next thing is compassion. So obviously this ties into having that courage to look at yourself and change your image. So it's really being that friend to yourself that you need, that supporting hand in the worst of times, not just the best of times. And naturally, if you can learn to be compassionate, you won't really need to use those coping mechanisms of being negative or being doubtful to protect yourself from disappointment. Instead, you could use that to fuel your belief in your ability to succeed or have anything that you want, especially when it comes to love. And then it won't be any more necessary to have hurt or pain be the byproduct of relationships. Instead, you could pleasantly end things if you so chose to, or be able to work things out and communicate in a better way to get the positive relationships and the growth that you could have with a person. So the next thing I want to talk about was peace, because peace can show up in different ways depending on where you are in your life. And when it pertains to love and relationships, peace can show up as ease, comfort, feeling at home emotionally with a person, even within yourself, because you have that trust and you're not wondering if that person is being unfaithful. Like, you genuinely know you have a connection, you are in love with someone and they love you just as much as you love them, and it's just like a perfect fit. So that peace within other people is really just a byproduct of the peace within yourself. So you have to understand what peace looks like for you and kind of cultivate that, and then everything else will fall into place. And lastly, I want to talk about confidence, because when you love yourself, it's natural that you'll be confident about who you are, and that's just going to radiate, and that's what makes a lot of people look really attractive. Someone who knows themselves, accepts themselves, and is the best that they can be. And even if you aren't at your best, it's still a certain confidence that comes with knowing I'm always growing, and it's not necessarily about perfection, but finding that balance of acceptance yet still moving forward and progressing, because you don't have to be perfect to be with someone. You can grow together. So with that said, this is probably where I'm going to end this video for today. I think we talked about a couple of things that would be good to keep your awareness on, that will naturally help you feel loved and express it a little bit more willingly.